Hi, my name is Ella Mulford-Chin, and this is my presentation on Dhkp/C, or the Revolutionary People's Liberation Front/Party. The definition I used was from the FBI, and it states, the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population or any segment thereof, in furtherance of political or social objections. The Turkish definition of terrorism is attacks against Turkish citizens and the Turkish state, and hampers Turkey's ability to interdict those who would target non-combatants globally. I picked these definitions because Dhkp/C does not have any religious motivations, and they're basically a social economic terrorist organization. I did not use the Turkish definition because Dhkp/C has attacked other interests besides Turkey's. Dhkp/C is a Marxist-Leninist left-wing Turkish organization. They are also anti-American and anti-NATO and are against imperialism. They have ties back to 1966 and they go on to the present. In 1966, the leader was Mehar Kayan, and he was killed in 1972. In 1974, government amnesty was given, and many terrorist members were set free. After many changes in leadership, Dursun Karataz took over the organization in the late 70s. In the 1980s, killings included former Prime Minister Professor Dr. Nihat İrem and bodyguard, and they bombed the Turkish-American Businessmen's Association, the Economic Development Foundation, and the Metal Employees Union. There were many arrests in the 1980s, and this threatened to destroy the organization, but yet they again reorganized. In the 1990s, they began to protest the Gulf War and other foreign interests and took responsibility for killing 2 U.S. Department of Defense workers and a U.S. Air Force officer. In 1993, a faction of the group split off. They are Dhkp/C. Their threat is now smaller because they have split in half, but the threat is still substantial. Their structure is that the members range from university graduates to illiterates. While members range from grads to illiterates, more than one-half are at least high school graduates, and most of the members are under the age of 30. They are divided into committees, the Central Committee, the Regional Committee, and the International Committee. The Central Committee is at the top, followed by the Regional Committee, and the International Committee is at the bottom. The International Committee is responsible for the money and financing of the terrorist organization. They also have a military unit and working class supporters. The military unit is a group of foot soldiers, and they would do mostly the suicide bombings. The goals of Dhkp/C are to stage a coup and take over the Turkish government. They would like to set up a communist or socialist state, and they want to get rid of Western influences, especially American influences. One of the main goals is to stop American occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan and other Western and American influences. After September 11, 2001, Dhkp/C started using suicide bombings. They went after American assets more fervently since the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan. They have targeted domestically Prime Minister Recep Erdogan and Justice Minister Hikmet Sami Turk. Hikmet Sami Turk was attacked by a suicide bomber. He was only saved because the bomb was faulty and went off and exploded while the bomber was in the bathroom. Their use of suicide bombing is usually more towards individuals, and the use of planted explosives is usually with enterprises. 2 law enforcement groups fight terrorism in Turkey, and they are the Turkish National Police and the Jandarmiye. The Turkish National Police usually police the urban areas, and the Jandarmiye usually polices the rural areas. They also have an intelligence agency called MIT. Turkey set up the F-type prisons to stop the smuggling of contraband and networking of Dhkp/C operatives. This caused a hunger strike within the prison. The Dhkp/C fervently fights the F-type prisons because it has made their operations harder, and during this strike, 122 people starved to death. In 2004, Turkish police officers arrested 37 people involved in Dhkp/C. The 37 people arrested were the product of a sting that spanned 5 countries and has 56,000 hours of telephone conversation. In 2007, raids were made in cooperation with Belgium, which resulted in confiscation of terrorism contraband. The 2007 bust showed how willing Turkey was to cooperate with other countries. Arrest and investigations in Dhkp/C led to loosened legislation in Belgium regarding restrictions against extremists. This included easier police surveillance and easier searches, wiretaps, and use of informants. Belgium has also started their own terrorist organization list, which includes terrorism financiers. They can now freeze the assets of suspected terrorists. The difference that Dhkp/C has made is that Turkey is now more aware of terrorist activities that are going on in this country. They are making sure Dhkp/C doesn't get stronger, and they are weakening its core. Dhkp/C has also brought attention to the PRISM system in Turkey and their shortcomings. The mitigation efforts are that the general amnesty given in 1974 let terrorists go free. Without amnesty, leaders of the group could have stayed locked away. The amnesty is the worst thing that could have happened in the fight against Dhkp/C. They will not be appeased until Turkey becomes a communist or socialist state. And they will not be satisfied until there is an overthrow of government. So no government action, I don't think, can help. To cut it off now, it is important to find their financials, recruitment areas, and training cells. Without their financials, they will no longer have access to many of the technology and resources. Thank you.